Give her the mic, please.
सर, आपने अपनी राइटिंग स्किल्स के लिए, राइटिंग के लिए मसूरी को ही क्यों चूज करा?
Sorry, I didn't get it.
Why is Mussoorie the setting of your major writings? Why is Mussoorie and Dehradun the setting for your major writings?
Okay, why have I been living and writing from Mussoorie and Dehradun for so many years? Well, you write best about a place that you know well. And I happened to grow up in Dehradun since I was a boy of 5, which takes me back to 1940. In fact, that's 5 years before independence. When Dehradun was a small town of about 40,000 souls. And I grew up here because it was my mother's home. And during those war years, World War II was on. My father was serving in the Air Force. So I grew up in Dehradun. Briefly, I went to a small school in Mussoorie, which I didn't like. I ran away a couple of times. And then my father put me in a school in Simla. And I did all my schooling in Simla, but in my holidays I would come to Dehradun. Finished school, went away, went abroad, came back to India, came back to Dehradun, which was my hometown, naturally. Then I spent some years in Delhi, but I wanted to escape from the city life. So I wanted to live in the hills. I thought I would write better if I went and lived in a quiet, tranquil place. And I took this small cottage on the outskirts of Mussoorie, and things started happening. The windows were open, birds and animals were coming into the house, the forest was around me, the hills stretched away, the mountain streams beckoned, and I found actually I was writing better. I was writing poetry, I was writing stories, I was writing essays, and even short novels. So I found that sometimes the place you live in can make a great difference to your work, to your writing. It doesn't mean you can't be a writer anywhere else, because if you are a born writer, or you have it in you to write, you should be able to write anywhere. But it does help if you're living and working in a place that's beautiful and kind to you. And that's what it has been all these years.
And of course,
we live in a changing world, you asked, and young people, you can now you can use the microphone.
Put the question to the audience so they are clued up.
We live in a world that is changing very fast, and in my own experience, a lot of young people want to be a part of that change, want to bring about that change in something. And we see them doing this through public policy, getting into those fields. But in what ways can literature be a way through which to change the world tangibly?
Well, literature, I guess, is just one way of changing the world. And you're not, when you write a story or a poem or a novel, you're not going to have an immediate effect on people or the world around you. It's usually an accumulative effect over a passage of time, you take great writers from the past who had an effect on society. A writer like Dickens, for instance, who wrote about the slums and the poverty of London, and it did have an effect, but it's an accumulative, it's over a period of time. So young people naturally want change to happen quickly. So if you want, through your writing, to effect a change, you must work hard at it and put forward your thoughts, your point of view, but you can't be in a hurry. You can't change things immediately. If you want to do that, then you must go into politics or something else.
Thank you, sir. So literature is slow and steady. Literature is supposed to breed revolutions, but the writer is not a revolutionary.
Literature is for the long term.
Yes, yes, sir. Chanakya, you want to add to that or ask a question? Yes, sir.
That's very interesting question.
You can also, sir, can I ask him to put that question on the mic? So, yeah.
I asked Mr. Bond that he has seen India before, during and after independence and how this has affected his writing.
Yes, I've been very fortunate in a way to have grown up at a crucial period of Indian history. I was a boy of 12, I think, 12 when in 1947 when India became independent. And of course, at that age, you are not aware of everything that's happening around you because being in a boarding school, you are protected to some extent. But I do vividly remember the day of independence and the Indian flag going up on our playing field in Simla. And after that, unfortunately, there were 2 or 3 months of repercussions with the exchange of population between areas of the Punjab and Bengal that were partitioned, and parts went and became Pakistan and the rest remained with India. And with the exchange of population that happened, there was a lot of death and destruction. Fortunately, things calmed down and quietened down till I came home to Dehradun, and suddenly I was sitting in a cinema hall, and the manager came out and said, "So sorry, we've just heard Mahatma Gandhi's been assassinated." So for 1 week, no pictures. I went home, and again, it was a period of both, let's say, joy and uplift because of independence, but these tragic events kept happening at the same time. Fortunately then, for the country, things did, peace came, prosperity started coming, and for many years I think great advances were made. So I was lucky. When I went to school in Simla, there was no Chandigarh. I saw Chandigarh being built from scratch. So in a way I was seeing history being built. And so there were many changes like that. Also big projects and education spreading all over the country. When my first book was published in 1955, and I was in Dehradun, and I went to a club to give a reading, and there were just 10 people sitting there, and today a few hundred, and that's due not because I'm a better writer, it's because education has spread so much over the country, and schools like yours here and others in the area, in the country, have grown, expanded, and hundreds of thousands of children are getting, most of the time, a pretty good education. So that's what's changed things, education.
No, I just realized that when Sir's first book was published, it was exactly 3 years before I was born. Alright, so many of you can relate to that. Since when? Since when he has been a gift to us? I mean, I believe he's a gift to us, not that he's a gift to us. Right? So, Tara, young lady, I'm sure you have some thoughts to share. Go ahead.
Sir, you've written it across so many genres, from horror to fiction to non-fiction. I think it would be unfair for you to pick a favorite, but what would be one that you enjoy writing more than others?
Thank you for that question. I think one reason why over the years I've written in different genres and different kinds of writing. One was because in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, it was very hard to make a living from writing, and I was always looking for new ways, perhaps, of being able to use a business term, market or sell my work. So if I found it was difficult to sell poems, which it always has been, so I would write short stories. And if nobody wanted short stories, I would write humorous articles. And then within the genre of, say, the short story, I would try everything from humor to love stories to, and when I ran out of people, I would write ghost stories. So I cooked up quite a few ghosts. I have to confess that I've never really met one. And in a big new auditorium like this, I don't think you'll see one either. Although I do see something rather weird floating around right at the back of the so perhaps it's already getting its atmosphere. So all these genres, and it makes one reason I've never stopped writing is because if say I've had enough of writing a story, I can turn to something else. So different genres are always there, and they, in a way, have to keep me going over the years too. The fact that I don't get stuck or bogged down in a particular theme. Does that help?
Thank you, sir.
So, how did you develop an interest in writing and literature? And was there any point while writing your book where you felt that people would like my book and that I should stop writing because you had fear of failure?
That's a very valid question, yes, because I've over the years known many young writers who were very talented and wrote well, but because of early disappointments, they gave up writing and went into some other career, maybe advertising or journalism or teaching even, because you see, disappointments will come. It's very rare, exceedingly rare for a writer to get fame and fortune overnight. It might happen, 1 out of 1,000, but normally it takes many years of work and of not giving up in a way, of sticking to what you want to do, being single-minded about it, and then if maybe it's at the culmination of it, would be to some extent some success. The best thing, of course, is to have many readers and many people enjoying your work, and I think that's the greatest reward that you can have. So my advice always to young writers is don't give up, never despair. But if you do despair, then work on in despair. Don't give up.